Hello, world. Welcome. So thank you for joining us here on Google Live for our first session, Inventing with Cardboard. So this is a prototype. We're still figuring things out as we go along, but we have a lot of exciting projects to show you today. So thank you for the creative consultants of Imagination Foundation joining us, as well as our Strawbees ambassadors. This is kind of like the first of many things to come in terms of delivering content to you, where we are planning on building instructional videos, but also kind of giving you more context. So that's what our Google Hangouts and our future more sessions with Eric and I. Yeah. So for those of you that may have been speaking to me on the internet, my name is Lindsay. I'm the content and community manager. And with me is Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Eric, what do you do?
So I build stuff most of the time, invent stuff, and research what we're going to do in the future. And today I'm going to go through, I was actually talking to you a little bit about that this, in my mind, is more of a walkthrough, walkthrough, I don't know, prototype in the name there too. So we actually talk through how I design things. So show you some of the stuff and some of the cardboard connections I do.
What's a good project? What's a project you're working on? Do you have one here for us?
Right now, I'm working on a really amazing Tiny Rex, T-Rex. So the T is for
T-Rex, Tiny Rex.
Yeah, Tiny Rex. So here he is, first prototype made yesterday. This is actually what we're going to show in the next. We're going to show some basic stuff today of making one of these, and then next session we'll also animate it just like I've done here with a QuirkBot. So we have a giant dinosaur, animated dinosaur prototype.
I love it. Just in time for Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly. So, and everybody wants to have their own little Tiny Rex at home, maybe. So we're going to show some stuff with some of the connections I use, some of the ways I designed this. It might look advanced, but it's actually pretty simple if you go about it incrementally. If you try to design it from bottom up, it's trickier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've been focusing on a lot of cardboard, recycled materials. So here I've been making a small bicycle. Not necessarily perfect, but it's like an early prototype that we're building, trying to take advantage of, you know, the many types of joints you can create, rotating joints, fixed joints, as well as looking into upcycling more different kinds of materials. So like egg cartons, for example, with some of our new bendy straws that we're developing, just to kind of make things a little bit more organic. But that's a lot of what we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, we're going to show you more of that in the next one, how I make holes in everyday items to actually make them completely compatible with Strawbees, because that's the origin of Strawbees. So we can make some fun marble runs and stuff like that utilize old PET bottles or stuff you can find at home.
Yeah. And for those of you that are wondering, like, what kind of materials you can use, so Strawbees, straws, cardboard, you can hack boxes. We're going to show you a lot of tips and tricks for using found material at home. So for the creative consultants, we sent you a kit a couple months ago. We sent you an inventor kit, and we also created a small sample of a cardboard kit. So we also have been producing these booklets full of, you know, tips and tricks on building with cardboard. So we're going to show you a few of those things today. So we're going to actually go through the exercises of building things with those joints many, many times, as well as how to kind of progress. So, and we're also going to show you a little bit about the tools inside. So the small sample that we gave out is actually part of this big school kit that's coming out later this year, the cardboard school kit, full of punches and a holder. So it makes construction much easier. So Eric, can you show me the itinerary? Like, what are we going to be building?
Basically what we're going to do. So now we can switch to the other. We have high-tech system today.
Yes, we do.
So we are prototyping this too. So we're going to shift down and see table. And then these are my hands. Can we show your hands too, Lindsay?
Definitely.
So my hands. Oh, this is super weird. They're in the wrong. They're mirrored. Okay, so today, basically, I'm going to go through some of the connections that I use in cardboard. They're in the cardboard kit too. And then we're going to apply some of these connections in some cardboard puppets, similar to the T-Rex. We're going to make them a bit simpler first, but I'll also go through a little bit of the T-Rex that is mechanical without the QuirkBot. And then 3, one of my favorite things, hacking a box to make a marble run for ping pong balls. So we'll see if we get through everything on time, but hopefully we do. It's a prototype, so run with us there. So this is the basic itinerary.
Build connections, puppets.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if we have time, make a marble run.
Yeah. And otherwise, we'll get into that a little bit more in the next session.
Sounds good. Okay. So let's start building some connections.
With some connections.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can continue here in the top view. So, because we're going to focus on something that's very common, it's going to be cardboard today. Super much, lots of cardboard. This one is already pre-cut a bit here, but basically, when you build with cardboard, what I do, this is from the talk through thing, is I actually make a couple of cardboard connectors, so you can actually make a couple too. So this is a good preparation when you're building with cardboard.
So should I use mostly ones? Would you suggest?
That depends on what you have. For example, if you're a shortage of ones, the washer part. So now we're going to use, I call it a washer, but when you build with cardboard, you basically pre-assemble some cardboard connectors, and they look like this. So you slide a Strawbee or a washer. Like now you can actually, all the way into the bottom of a Strawbee. So they look like this.
So like this. So it's
I don't know if it's good to go closer to. Yeah, you see they're fixed there on the very end. And these are really good to prepare because then you can build much faster. So let's just make a couple here so we can show some of the tricks.
Okay.
And it doesn't actually matter if you use a 1, a 2, or a 3. So, for example, if you're short on ones, then you can actually use a 3 or a 5 or a 2 on this end.
Okay. So I'll make one with a 5.
Yeah.
Just for fun.
Yeah. So then we can test it. And then when you have some of these connectors, it's much faster to build and flow with your construction. Then I take the amazing new 3D printed cardboard tool, but you can also use a regular pencil. So if you do we have a pencil here? See if we. It's somewhere. But basically, what you do with your regular pencil is you make a hole where you want to connect your piece of cardboard to the other piece.
So would you call this a punch?
This is the punch.
So this is the Strawbee punch with the flat side and a rounded side. And
the flat side is what I use generally, but there's some particular places where it's better to actually use the flat side. So the regular punch side, around, this one, and the flat. So we can actually show some really good ways of using the flat thing also. But I'll start with just showing the basic connection of 2 cardboard pieces. And to do that, you basically have to have 2 cardboard pieces and have a hole somewhere where you want to connect them. So let's imagine we want to build this little moving thing. You place the holes on top of each other, and then you just plug your Strawbee with a washer down, and then you see that there's an open end on this side. And then you just connect it with just the same as before. It doesn't really matter what piece you use here.
So it prevents it from falling off.
Yeah. And this is actually your rotating joint, because there's only one point connected, it can move. And the more you move it, the easier it's going to be, because it kind of wears on the cardboard. Yeah.
And when is it a fixed joint?
So we actually have the fixed joint. One thing you can do to make it less moving is actually just squeeze them closer to each other. This is friction. So you can feel that it's actually, if I do this, you see it's staying. When I had it with less friction, see if I do this, it's spinning. So you can actually adjust the friction with the Strawbees. That might have been a bit too sloppy, so I wanted, if I wanted to have it spinning, a little bit spinning. So you see, it's actually much more powerful than we can convey it in text.
Yes.
You see, this is when I want to make a mechanical thing with cardboard. I set the squeeze between these 2 washer Strawbees by pushing it on.
So there might be a lot of like friction that could build up between the 2.
Yeah, if you want friction, you do that. But if you don't want friction, you slide them apart a little bit, so you can see that they're you see there's a bit more space in between the Strawbees there. So now it's very low friction.
Can I add that joint to my cat?
You can use that in your cat later, but I'm going to go through, if you want to do it now, if you want to make a hole in the cat's head.
I just want to show like the movement. So I pre-made this cat, and I just want to show this movement. So, you know, if you have like two separate pieces, so it could be something like these strips, or like a head of a cat and a body of a cat. We can use our punch here and poke a hole through it. So it's definitely the same concept. And then maybe you could put it right on the nose.
That's the thing. Do you want to make a hole in your cat? Otherwise, we can show another way of fixing that to the head. If we want to go like the talk through, because, for example, now when you made some nice graphics, we have to choose, do we want to make a hole in our cat's head, or do you want to avoid it today?
That's a good point. So that's sometimes something that could happen, that maybe, you know, naturally want the head to move, but then if you're about to put the joint there, so now I'm like, conflicted with putting it on the nose, but it might not actually look as good as I want it.
So today, just because we're doing a talk through and showing some advanced stuff, we can give you some, if I would have designed this as beautifully as you did, I don't want to destroy the head, but it's okay when, like in the beginning, you can still do it. It's not that dangerous, but I can show first thing you need to figure out is how do I want the movement? Where's the axis? Where is it going to move around? So you have to kind of, I use my fingers like this to get an idea of the movement. If I have it up here, you see that the movement is different. This is the center. So where do you want the movement to center? Maybe actually it's pretty fun to have it high up.
I really like
We've made a lot of robots with them down here, because then it's like wobbling like that. There's a completely different movement down here.
I definitely like that.
Yeah, this is like it's looking for some kind of animal on the ground. You have to use your imagination when you're building. It's really important.
That's true. Sometimes it just changes as you go along. That's the point of a talk through.
Yeah, exactly. I think that could be fun. So we're thinking out loud. And if you really annoyed at us, you can give that in feedback in the comments later. So now you actually made a hole. Now I didn't get to show my secret trick, because now it's very low because of where your hole was. But we can cheat, because nobody's going to see that second hole that you make if you want to make a hole higher up.
Sure.
So you can make a second hole.
Yeah. So that's kind of the point. Sometimes you have to just modify it a few times. So
now
I have to do it a few times.
Yeah.
So like putting something like that. Maybe I could stick it like an antenna.
Yeah. So this is one that's going to show a little bit more. But that's a really nice movement.
Yeah. Kind of like some of the robotics that we started creating, where we have expressive robotics, like if you have like the ears wiggling, the position of the head, because now my cat's emotion is kind of like.
And actually, if we want to animate it later, now it's a talk through again, because I've been building so much that this would be really fun to actually go through and change as we go. I would put this from behind.
Okay.
And then in this case, it could be actually good to use the flat end, but we don't want to destroy this head too much. But if we use the flat head, we could actually translate motion from behind. You see, so we could actually animate by moving a stick here, and the head would move in the front.
I like that.
Which could be pretty cool. So let's go through that. And this is what actually building with Strawbees is all about. It's like iterating your way forward. So when you do this design, your first design, you should make a really mock-up-y, sketchy thing. And then you can go through your next iteration of the thing, could be the one that you kind of polish up a little bit. So let's just get this connected here to his head.
And this is our very first simple rotating joint.
Yeah. And now you see I can actually, because the friction is higher up in the head here, I can actually animate it by pulling it on the back. So this is a really good thing for robotics later.
Definitely.
And then we could connect a little straw on the back. Oh, I didn't show that, but you get to just squeeze the straw on here. And then we have a movement.
I love it.
And then maybe next step would be to actually connect, make this one, we're making a remote control. So maybe we should go through that too. So
yeah.
I love remote controls. This is not one of those expensive remote controls. Actually, in this case, I would put this so the Strawbee is coming out. A joint Strawbee like this.
So this is like a rotating joint.
Yeah, rotating joint between two straws. And now I have a remote control for the head.
I like your term, remote control.
Yeah, this is it's like not perfect, but it looks really nice. Okay, so that was actually applying one of the rotating joints. But so now we actually jumped into puppets even before we went through all our connections. But
I got a little excited.
Yeah, that's good. We can come back to him a little bit later. Let's put it. We can't put him out of the video. He can sit in.
Sit right here.
Let's let him be in there on the side. So that was the rotating joints, and actually a transference of momentum, which was, as an engineer, we're going through some engineer speak there, but this one is the rotating joint. If you want it to be rigid, to actually stay like this, imagine if you wanted to have this, hold this shape and not just go like this, what do you need to do? It's in the instructions, and then you need to make a second hole. That's the best way of fixing this. And a second hole somewhere on the same area here that goes through both sheets.
Does having more holes help?
That depends on how big. It could actually be better if you have a big sheet of. This is also engineering, actually. So it depends on how much area you have, surface area, and how much you tear this apart. But usually when you do like screw together pieces of metals, you have to kind of calculate what's the best spread of your fixing points. But for cardboard, it's actually better to just have two if you want to have them.
So if we're starting this
but
small,
maybe if it's like a
enough.
really big thing, you could go for 3 little units. But then we use the same connection as we did before. Cardboard connection, and now we have something that holds actually a force there. Even though you see the Strawbees they're a bit flexy, so you can squeeze it even tighter, and there it's stuck. And this is a feature we use in the boomerangs, for example.
Oh, interesting.
Which we can show also in a later show.
Future video.
Yeah. And there's another little connection that we're not going to use it in this video, but it could be fun to show it. So let's disconnect these again. Take the other side. So then we have the springy connection that we used in the cardboard manual. Then we can use the flat end and make a flat hole through the piece of cardboard. And then we use the same Strawbee connection, squeeze it through. And because it's flat, we can actually use the Strawbee as kind of a little spring. It's not perfect. It just does something because it adds, because the holes are flat. There's a little bit of springiness happening there. But it's really the best use of the flat is, for example, for slots. So if you want something to be moving along the cardboard, you can grab it. I can also show it. Then you can make your flat hole. Disconnect, for example, having this one moving here.
So like this one?
Yeah, if you have there. But if I want to make that, you can actually use your little cardboard tool to just make this crease with a. Then it's actually really good to use a scissor or something to go through with this.
So I could use my remote control.
Yeah, use a straw remote.
So I can make an animation this way too.
Exactly. In this case, it would be good to, for example, have the flat thing. If you wanted to have some kind of, maybe you wanted to put your dog on that remote. If we imagine this one was longer.
I like.
Can we use that imagination?
Let's do it.
You want to apply it? Okay. We go in here. So we have this sliding thing. And imagine that this is maybe connected to a box or something. So it's a much bigger piece of cardboard. We want to attach, in this case, this dog actually has our little, we're going to go through this later using simple cardboard. What? The cardboard slots. Okay. So we'll just disconnect them, and they actually looks like his feet still. That's cool. So we want to connect him to this sliding thing.
Seems like level 4.
So then we make a hole here, a flat hole again. Okay, we have 2. Make a connection.
So we might need 2 people.
We can have double. We can actually connect them to the big piece of cardboard also. So now we have a remote for him to slide sideways. But in this case, because you see there's a lot of movement now going on, you see it's not really following. It's like doing something strange.
Or if I hold it in
if
place.
I have both of these at the same time, let's see if I can actually. Now I can animate them a little bit. It's staying put. But actually, if you wanted to do this, it would be better to have two holes, because then it's secured.
So it might help it stabilize.
Should we try that too?
Yeah,
while we're going through this? But obviously now, because maybe we'll just make one here, because now the dog is almost as wide as the slot. So these are things you will experiment with and see all of a sudden, these holes are just as wide apart, and then you only have like a very small movement that's possible. But then you just have to either change your slot or do something else. But now I'll just make a second hole. I see the slot through the cardboard here. I make a second hole.
So we're making the holes that aligns with the slot here.
Yeah, so the dog doesn't just fall over all the time like it was almost doing when we started experimenting with him. There we are. And now you see he's actually staying level. We have a little bit too much friction, so what do we do then? We actually try to get them a little bit more apart, just so there's enough friction to keep it not falling over all the time, but still being able to slide. Now I actually pulled it out here. Then maybe if we're going to do an advanced, if you have problems with something sliding out all the time in the straw, then you can use a pull lock here. And now we're showing some advanced Strawbees tricks too. Now it's not gonna loosen. There we are. Now we made a double remote cardboard fox dog cat.
Yeah, it's kind of changed animals over the course of this hangout.
Yeah, I think that's good stuff. Okay.
So then how can we fix this? Is there a way that we can connect these two that maybe could be a little productive?
If you want.
Like maybe just to scaffold it a little bit?
Yeah, you could connect them to each other, and then you could, for example, have a handle being able to control both.
So we could use like another one of our rotating joints, moving joints?
Yeah, I would make two here in the end. So make two rotating joints, and then we connect them with another straw here.
Something like this.
Now we actually improvise a completely new dog or animal thing puppet during the course of this little video. I kind of like that. That's the thing. The open-endedness of this system is so strange. I kind of, that's how the dino came. I didn't plan him completely. Yeah, because now you see with your same hand, you can control both things.
So now I have to like make a handle.
And you have a handle there.
Okay. Yeah. So.
And that was one of the things, but this is a little bit more advanced. We can actually show them next time how to how to animate them with, for example, crowfoot, get him to stand and stuff like that.
Well, then how can we start with a really simple puppet?
Yeah. So we have another puppet. Let's show a dog from the beginning here.
Okay. I'll get our dog.
Because now we've modified your out of, and he should have like an ear and a little tail. Now it looks like a polar bear dog, like you said, but that's because I'm just.
So is this the ear here?
I made an ear. So when you're making these cardboard animals, you kind of have to think a little bit like, so sometimes the first time you can just design it on a piece of cardboard and then draw everything at the same time. What do I do after that is I look at my design and I think, what things would I like to have moving? And what I wanted to have moving is maybe these ears today and maybe the tail. But to keep it simple in this puppet workshop, maybe we'll focus on getting the tail to move.
I agree.
So, and then we'll see how long that takes. So I want the tail to move. Then I do the same as I did before. I usually use my fingers just to experiment with this movement a little bit. And then when I know this is actually kind of the movement I want, I still hold my fingers like this. You see that I actually just squeezing the cardboard pieces together. And then I make a hole there. I had already drawn a hole, but I don't really care about where I put my design because I didn't design it for a specific movement. I want to experiment and figure out my movement. So I use my fingers. And then, for example, we can actually show this sometimes when I want to be very careful with my objects, like this dog. I spent some time on like drawing on it. I don't want to get it to fold. Then I use the cardboard. What would be actually the punch holder, because it's really good when you're going to punch through two things. So you don't bend the pieces of cardboard. It stays there and keeps it flat. So now I just punch through, and I can't punch into my hand either, but it's mostly to keep it flat and nice.
And another benefit of the punch holder is that it helps you create holes through really small pieces of cardboard. So you know, sometimes when you have a small sheet, like something like this size, and you're punching it, or even thinner than this, like even half this size, and then the cardboard sometimes bends and then breaks. So this actually helps straighten it out. So it's like, it gives it a completely flat surface and then hole without it bending and folding, kind of like what was happening with this one here. You
see some bending, and especially when you want to do mechanical objects, that's when we want to use this thing to keep everything straight and nice. So for example, if I didn't use it, and now I'm going to be extra clumsy, I do this, you see how it starts folding, and then it goes through. It's okay, but it's because it's getting weaker and weaker because of all the holes. We'll come back to your question before too.
The closer to the edge, the more weaker it becomes.
But anyway, it's also the things you don't want to have break. Now it has a really nice little hole here, and then we have to make another cardboard connection. And actually, the tail coming through here. So we take our cardboard connector, and then this is a design decision. Do we want the Strawbees to go from the back or the front? I'll go from the back, because then I can animate them later. I push it through here. We take a Strawberry from the front. Actually, I want the tail to be on the back, because now I see my design there, so I was just confused. And in this case, a single Strawberry looks nicest here in the back. Or if you have the cardboard kit, the washers would also look very good. It's like now we have a very simple little moving tail, but it's an earless dog. So that can be a bit annoying. But
I also like what you were doing with down here, the slots and the tabs, which we also cover in the booklet.
Yeah.
It's like a really simple technique that helps, you know, build your characters. So you'll see that we have the slot on this one starting at the top and the slot starting at the bottom, but there's like a little bit of overlap, so it should fit perfectly like that. And
there's no real, you don't have to follow any real designs or something, but you start with the one that's going to be on the bottom, that's going to be against the table thing. You start with that one, making your little slot, and don't go much farther than halfway through this object.
Yes.
When you cut, now you just use a regular scissor like this. We can just make one really fast. An extra one here from this piece. Let's take this piece so we don't destroy something. Making a little foot just to show the basic idea. I look at it, okay, how deep do I want it to go? Something like that. And this is just eyeballing. You can test it yourself. And then I cut, as I said before, not much farther than halfway, and just take off a little bit so there's a little bit of a gap. It's easier to squeeze them together. And now this is a very simple piece. We can make some design radius here, so it looks nicer. Doesn't really matter. And then you squeeze it in, and there you have it. Now it can stand. So this is a very simple way of making slots so you can get your puppets to stand in front of you. And then we want to add our little ear to here. Oh.
An ear to here.
I like to add an ear to here. That is, wow.
So do you think this dog would be happy? Maybe if we think about the ear being like this, it might come off as really angry or cool. Really excited.
I'm getting what I want to do with this. I would like to show an advanced, because I want this to animate this ear now. When I see this was what we're talking about when we do these talk throughs. They can be a bit strange. I hope you get some ideas from us. Here, but what I would like to do is not make a hole that shows on this side, just like I was talking before for your the little dog cat box. I would like to actually attach a Strawberry. So sometimes when you're making these puppets, this is one of the few times where it's actually pretty okay to even use a bit of tape. So to get this connected through the cardboard, what I did now is I folded a regular single Strawberry like this, You see?
Yeah.
And then where on the point of where I wanted to rotate around, I can tape this because this I want to be secret. I don't want it to show on the front. I want this to be slightly magic, a magic little ear. So I use a bit of, this is just regular, some paper freeze, what you call it?
It's like paper tape.
Yeah, paper tape.
So masking tape could be a good tool for
because
this part.
You can tear it off without destroying your construction. Because tape is sometimes useful, especially in these places where you can actually make this piece modular. So now I have a hole here, and then I just figure out where do I want this ear to rotate. And you can have lots of directions. So it's somewhere around here. So then I look, okay, this is where I should make my hole. I poke it through like that. And there we have it. And actually, when I want something to move a little bit more, I kind of do this little, what would you call this? Fnurgling? No.
I made up a word. Like a fixed joint, so it can't really move. It's very limited, fixed joint.
But this I actually wanted to be able to move. So I'm making the hole bigger. So now this can move much better. So then we come in here on the back, attach our Strawbee, and then we squeeze it down. And now you'll see here, we can actually show our remote control system again.
Made entirely of straws.
Yeah. So actually, if we want these two to be, now it depends on where we want the ear to be. You were talking about having the ear upwards. Should we do that? So it's
I like the idea of having a really excited, happy dog.
So then, but you saw now that when I move the ear, this one is moving here in the back.
Oh, I see.
And that's what I wanted to achieve. So then, now I'm thinking a couple of steps ahead. I'll go through what I'm thinking, but then I'm moving this one down. So when this is down, this is up, these two are down. So these could be connected mechanically. So we could pull the dogs, which is how it works with real dogs in many ways. You pull their tail, their ears move. Not just am I correct? You know dogs better than me.
They might not be very happy. It might not be a pleasant experience for the dog.
Okay, so I'll just make this. This is actually pretty fun. Luckily, we made this in a really good dimension. You see,
so it's sometimes, nice with a straw.
Yeah, sometimes you can be a bit lucky. So I want to make this movement to be connected to each other. So I make two similar length straws. And obviously, you can have standard lengths here or anything. There we are.
Making a moving joint?
Yeah, and then you can make two moving joints.
There you go.
Thank you. I need another one. I'm running out of ones. There's a bag of ones here on the floor. Once there were ones.
Perfect.
Oh, sorry. Gothenburg. Oh, spelling them out.
So I'll make a few here.
Yeah.
So here's one more. Snap it on there.
Yeah. And then we just take a straw, connect these to each other. And now you see that actually, because this one doesn't have, it actually works already. So we don't now we're pulling. You see?
Would you say this dog is excited, happy?
I think it's happy, and you can make it fast too. You see, there's lots of. Now you also see there's some issues with. We have to think this through if we want to make some mechanisms. Maybe we could have made these shorter, so we can try that. Because, for example, these are things I want these experiences to come through building. So you see, okay, well, all of a sudden it pops out. I want you to, when you're building, you see these things and try to fix it and figure them out. It doesn't actually matter if it's popping out there. But if I want to fix it, how can I fix it? Then you go through your, let's just shorten these.
Okay.
So we do that very fast. We're gonna, we're using a lot of time on this, aren't we?
That's okay.
It's good, isn't it? I think it's better that you get to see how to build.
So I think we only have a few more minutes left. So
we'll take the marble runs
just to finish the puppets, but we can go through the marble run in the beginning of the next video very briefly.
We can show a little brief one. So now you see we've added, it's shorter. And actually, what's really fun to experiment with is what happens if I have this long and this short? What happens to the movement between them? So those kinds of experiments can be left for exploration. So I really like this very simple animated dog. Yeah, and do you have your remote? I could also make a remote for this dog too, if I want to. But in the next session, we'll go through how to actually, now that you see these very simple ways of connecting, for the next episode, you can realize that it should be pretty easy to just snap in a querpot somewhere here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we have another dog that we pre-made ahead of time.
Yeah, very simple. Actually, we could add this also. Obviously, once you get started and you realize how simple it is. In the beginning, it might look complex, and that you have to think like super hard when you do these things. But basically, just get started making, and then experiment. Because this dog is, I'm really happy with this one too. This one is, it actually had a querpot in it. We're going to show how to animate it next time. It's prepared with a double hole to actually be able to connect your motor. But we're going to show that later.
Hey.
Maybe we should end on a little bit more advanced puppet here also.
We have time to show like the T-Rex. Like
yeah.
Maybe you could show the T-Rex puppet. It's
and
a little
if you want
more
to
advanced.
make him, but it's basically the same way that we were experimenting with this dog and just observing what we want to achieve, testing movements a little bit by just using your fingers to squeeze the pieces together and then making the whole. So this is a pretty big model. We can actually, if we want, we can take photos and upload the instructions for it, just the pieces, because this one is pretty nice. It has a moving tail that you can move without relation to the head. And then it has a really neat little mechanism in the back. So when I pull the entire dyno, it opens and closes. Maybe should we shift to the other camera so you can actually see it? And it has a really big foot here.
Yeah, we showed it in the beginning, but we're going a little more in depth about how the mechanics of this one works.
Yeah. So we showed the one with the querpot. We'll go through that next time too, and actually go through animating this one that doesn't have a brain. It only has mechanics.
Just the skeleton.
Yeah. So you put this on the table. Imagine a table here. You can do that. And then I just pull the T-Rex. You see it opens and closes the jaw. You can lower it a little bit because it goes out of camera. And then also, it has a separate mechanism for only the jaws.
Ooh.
So this is something this is an experiment I was just doing today to prepare for this video. And it's really fun to see once you have an idea of something you want to make. It might look slightly complicated, but we'll go through that also a little bit more next time. But this is actually coming to the engineering. We'll post some instructions. It's not at all as advanced as it looks. I just added stuff when I want to connect things and something more to move. But it's based on a 4-bar mechanism. So offset between these 2 points. These are 4 points, obviously, when I'm showing. So here's a little beam, and here's a little beam, which makes it, when I move this, they want to stay at the same angle. But it looks really nice.
Well, it's looking really advanced and inspirational.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like something you can kind of work your way toward.
Exactly. But that's the thing. You shouldn't start with this. You just end here when you start scaffolding and testing things, and then things just become more and more complicated because it's very easy to actually start testing. But we'll show this. This is a simple project to build. So should we say goodbye like this?
So thank you for joining us for our very first Google Hangout. Please feel free to email me any questions or write on the Facebook page if you have any questions. We're looking to post more content like this. So some of you may have seen the wagging tail cat video. So we're going to be producing more video content just like that, building our way to have more instructions like dogs, cats, and cat fox dogs.
Should we pick up the marble run just to show
we can show you that's a good idea. So we have time to just show you a brief example of a marble run that we've created that we'll be going over later. So,
the box hacking.
The box hacking. So that's actually another thing we want to show, how to hack a box.
Yeah. So this is, and actually we showed you a little bit in the first puppet some of the sliding mechanism, but in this construction I used the sliders to be able to vary angles on my marble run track. So we'll go through a little bit more, but basically in this construction I used mainly tools to get the straws out into the room, so it actually can carry a ping pong ball, or call them marbles. We
call it the roller coaster run.
Yeah. So you place your ping pong ball here, and there we're stuck. So then we can see if we can modify it a little bit. So because all of these can slide, we can trial and error a way to make a successful marble run. Test it again. Yay! So that's what we're going to do next time, and add robotics and everything.
Awesome.
Super.
Well, that's cool. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video. Again, feel free to send me an email, post on Facebook, and until next time.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks for
Bye,
taking the
everyone.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.